in the eastern part of the world, there's a big, question mark on whether this was a message to Donald Trump. And even as the Republican administration is shaping up, Donald Trump making his way to the Oval Office, how are you looking at these two crucial developments? I mean, two trucks and two deadly events.
Well, it makes sense that it could be a message staged on New Year's Day and thereabouts. It's far removed from the inauguration, and so security is not going to be as tight. People's guards are going to be down, so it's possible. But I'll tell you, I'm also wary of false flags. It's entirely possible that this person was an ISIS sympathizer. It's entirely possible that the ISIS flag was genuine and his social media posts were genuine. Um, but there have been in late years enough incidents of false flags that I withhold judgment until investigations are concluded. Same with the Tesla truck explosion. I mean, obviously the symbolism is there. A Tesla truck from Elon Musk's Tesla exploding outside a Trump hotel. There's obvious symbolism, and it could be a message of warning. That one, I think, more so, just because of the symbolism involved. But in either case, whether it's a false flag or not, or just somebody losing their minds and committing an act of pure evil, they are designed to foment terror. They are designed to make people panic and make people suffer. And that's something we have to address culturally and to the fullest extent of the law.
Right. You know what, Mr. Williams? I mean, before I go on to General Datta here, what's the mood on the ground in Texas? I mean, one attack taking place in New Orleans, the other one in Las Vegas. What's the mood on the ground in Texas? How are people now reacting to these two different episodes?
Well, first reaction is shock, and I guess you should separate the reactions into two tranches. The first are people who are just go about their day that are not highly politically attuned. They're not political activists. And the first reaction there is shock and horror, as it should be. And I mean, there have been enough atrocities committed across the planet in the past couple of decades that this is unfortunately one more, and it doesn't have the same weight that it might have 20 years ago. But then there are the people who are highly politically attuned. They are political activists, and the shock wears off much more quickly here. And some of those folks I've seen are taking the stance, taking the attitude that this is a message. This is an essential declaration of war against President Trump just before he takes office again.
All right, all right. General Datta, I'm going to quickly come to you next. These two incidents, what do they reveal about the ISIS's, continued influence, and especially when it comes to lone wolf attacks? Because most of that infrastructure in Syria and Iraq, it has collapsed thanks to U.S.-led military coalitions' actions as well. But these lone wolf attacks, they continue to go on.
See, the thing is that you have to connect the dots with the ideology and the fundamentalist, the fundamentalist movement as far as ISIS is concerned. The generation and the whole thing started after the American invasion of Iraq, and it was the remnants of the Iraqi army and the Islamic fundamentalists who formed this group, the ISIS. Whether it was Levan, whether it is the ISIS, Khorasan, whether it is the other splinter groups all over the world today, the ISIS is active in carrying out their signaling and their actions all over. And the motivation is through the basic teachings which are there in the Holy Book, which is the fundamentalist teaching that anybody who is not a believer is a non-believer, and the non-believer should be killed. At the same time, to take revenge for the attacks carried out on those in all those places in the world where the American forces have been involved, and the total the way the operations were carried out in liquidating the entire country as such as Iraq, and subsequently now in Syria, what is happened, what is happening in Hamas, Gaza, what is happening with the Hezbollah. So this is the offshoot of that as a response to all those actions being carried out by the American forces, American supported forces, the Israelis. Uh, so it's a whole take. Whether they are attacking in Russia, whatever happens there, number of attacks have taken place there, and similarly now these attacks have been a coordinated effort, maybe by a motivation given to the lone wolf activity to go up and carry out an attack on the people in a manner, in whatever manner they can do. So this is a symbolic action. Maybe there could be more such actions where you don't need high explosive and all. You can use a vehicle, you can use a truck, you can use let's say a petroleum truck carrying 10,000 liters of fuel or petroleum gas, then explode it anywhere. So it is whatever means you have, whatever method you can use to carry out and strike terror into the heart of the people. And while America is protected, being isolated in a different continent where outside forces cannot come, unlike what happened in 9/11. So it is something motivating people to carry out assaults in whatever manner they can do, with whatever means they can use, and to carry the message uh, to the
All right.
people, whether it is the President Trump who will now take over, whether it is Joe Biden who's already there. So it is a messaging that anything can happen with whatever means in the disposal of the people who are motivated by the ISIS, the Islamic fundamental activity, and that is what is now reflecting in the manner they have been
All right.
carried out.
Gentlemen, just for the benefit of the viewers, I'm going to introduce the Cybertruck story here on the bulletin as well. We've got a separate incident that Mr. Williams was also talking about, and this incident happened hours after the the New Orleans attack. A Tesla Cybertruck exploded in Las Vegas outside the Trump International Hotel, killing the driver and injuring 7 others. We've got another report. Take a look at this for a better understanding.
A Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside the Trump International Hotel, Las Vegas, Wednesday morning. Las Vegas police released this video of the blast, which killed the driver and injured several others. They also released footage that showed the vehicle's interior afterward, which they said showed gas and camp fuel canisters, as well as large firework mortars. Tesla CEO Elon Musk said the blast was unrelated to the Cybertruck itself, saying in a post on X, quote, "All vehicle telemetry was positive at the time of the explosion." FBI Special Agent Jeremy Schwartz told reporters on Wednesday that it was not yet clear whether the blast was an act of terrorism.
I know everybody's interested in that word and trying to see if we can say, hey, this is a terrorist attack. That is our goal, and that's what we're trying to do.
He added the vehicle had been rented in Colorado and that the FBI had identified the driver, but was not yet ready to publicly name them. The Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas is part of the Trump Organization, the company of President-elect Donald Trump, who will return to the White House later this month. Musk was a key backer of Trump in his 2024 presidential campaign and is also an advisor to the incoming president. The explosion occurred just hours after a man drove a truck into crowds of New Year's Day revelers in New Orleans, killing 15. The FBI said an ISIS flag was attached to a staff protruding from the trailer hitch, and that a potential explosive device was found in the rented vehicle. Las Vegas police said both that vehicle and the Cybertruck had been rented through car-sharing service Turo. President Joe Biden on Monday said law enforcement was still investigating whether the Las Vegas explosion and the New Orleans attack were linked.
Well, Mr. Williams, now that we've introduced the Cybertruck explosion on this broadcast as well, could there be a connection between the New Orleans attack and the Las Vegas explosion? What are some of your sources telling you? What are some people in the United States, talking about on the ground, the rumor mill? What does it have it for the viewers?
It's certainly possible that they're linked. It's equally possible that they are unrelated but coincidental in timing. What is certain is that both were meant to send a message. And the general raises a very good point that both of these, whether they were linked or not, they send the additional message that you don't need guns to do this. You don't need guns to foment terror. And gun control is on and off a very hot topic in the United States. But this, as well as some vehicular attacks that we've seen in past years, this sends the message that gun control is not going to help. Nobody is safe. That's what they're trying to say with this.
a pertinent point. And, I mean, I also read the statement of the Las Vegas cops. They were thanking Elon Musk. They were talking about, Elon Musk is more helpful than the FBI. What was all that about?
Well, I can see that Elon Musk would be more helpful than the FBI from two standpoints. Number one, Elon Musk wants to preserve and protect the reputation of Tesla. And I read something where he said that the telemetry, and you said this, the telemetry of the vehicle was positive, I think you said, just before the explosion. So the explosion had nothing to do with the safety of the truck. So that's where I think Elon Musk would be forthcoming. But equally, I can see that the FBI would not be as forthcoming because, they're a more secretive organization, the FBI, and they don't want to tip their hand to any information that they have in pursuit of suspects, leads, additional accomplices, etc.
All right. General Datta, my final question to you. You spoke about how the ideology and the larger message is that you don't need guns. You gave that, big oil tanker example as well. How do you think, a government setup can mitigate something like this? What kind of counter-terrorism, steps can be taken immediately?
See, the thing is, the Homeland Security has put in the US. It is maybe an intelligence failure, maybe not monitoring the social media activity going on, what is happening on the social media or the internet, who are the people who are motivating such people to carry out such assaults by whatever means in their hands. I'll just remind, there was something called the Poor Man's James Bond, a book published in the US that you can use and make weapons on your own when you need them. So that was banned long back. I think it was somewhere in early 80s this book was published. So therefore, for anyone who wants to carry out a terrorist attack, he can use any means. It only needs the motivation and the reason to do it. And we are all aware that what is the fundamentalist teaching which is going on in the minds of the people who are becoming fundamentalists all over the world, whether it is today, if we talk about Pakistan, Afghanistan, we talk about Iran, we talk about Hezbollah, we talk about Hamas. All this is the result of that thing which is generated to kill the infidel, to kill the non-believer. And that thing will continue happening as long as that belief is there with a particular category of people. And that is what needs to be, the defundamentalization of the entire concept. That is worrying today in the world. And anyway, you see, while people say that the religion is never connected to terrorist acts, but if you see the number of terrorist attacks and you see the people who are doing it, you will mostly find one category of people involved in whatever is happening in the world. So there is something wrong. There's something wrong in the fundamental teaching about how to go about in life and what to do with the others. The freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, the freedom of democracy, the freedom of secularism. That is not existing anywhere in the world. So therefore, this thing will continue as long as we are there saddled with this problem of the fundamental teaching. And you can take back now when the Soviets came in Afghanistan and the entire jihadi concept was started by the Americans in Pakistan to counter the Soviet this thing. And that is where the fundamental teaching of jihad, kill the infidel. So that is how, and that is now spread and become uncontrollable.
All right, General.
The birth of Taliban, the birth of the ISIS, the birth of everything is related to what we have done in the world to fight each other. And I'm reminded of a movie called The 10th Victim. I don't know how many of you have seen it.
You know what?
It was, I think, 1964, 1965, talking about the most violent animal in the world is a human being, a man. And therefore, you make a syndicate. Everybody wants to do violence, join that syndicate. And then you go shooting each other. So it is something of that nature, that the man is the most violent animal. He finds an excuse to carry out a violent activity.
All right,
whether
General.
we call it any name.
Right. No, absolutely right. I mean, the New Year deadly tragedies that we're seeing, of course, the man is not a safe being, that's for sure. And, here's what I think. It's clear that while ISIS's territorial control, it may have waned, its influence and the ability for it to inspire violence acts, it remains a significant threat.